Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt, and when I want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe, I tune into Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
You love sports, and you know a lot. Your friends keep telling you, you should totally start a podcast. Well, it's time you listened and checked out Spreaker.com. People just like you have made their dreams a reality at Spreaker.com. For example, J-Rocc Myers started a Cleveland sports show called The Sports Fix, and now he has thousands of listeners. J-Rocc rocks, and so do you. Start your own podcast today at Spreaker.com. It's easy and free. That's SPREAKER.com.
Hey guys, J-Rocc here from the Sports Fix, and we always talking about using our platform to try to help the world and the society we live in, and everywhere I go and everywhere we go, bullying is one of the problems in today's society. There's nothing worse than any person, big or small, strong or weak, adult or child, feeling picked on, pushed around, vulnerable, and victimized at the hands of a bully. Change comes one person at a time, and my good friends at No Such Thing as a Bully are working on skills and techniques and ways that we can all change and make things better for everyone. Find out more at nosuchthingasabully.com.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And away we go. Off and running. Another edition of the Sports Fix, another week ready to roll. Thank you guys for joining me as we kick it off on a Monday. Dan Wismar is going to join me here in a little bit, and we're going to do the thing. I'm going to crack open the phone lines. We have got a lot to get into. I don't know, a presidential edition of the Sports Fix. President's Day week. It's a slow week. It's kind of like that week that we talk about in the summertime, where you get that week where there's the All-Star break and not a whole lot of other things going on. You kind of get there here as the Indians, they're getting going. They're playing a little catch, throwing a little pepper around. Not a whole lot, but they are getting rolling. You got the Indians just getting started. So tiny bit of a wait for them there. And obviously football just ended. And this is the week. And as a matter of fact, the extended week now, as they've gone longer with the – which I think is a good thing, by the way, the extended All-Star break with the few extra days after the game for the players who – had to play in the game, which I always thought. I'm like, hey, I know we talk about sucking it up because you make a whole lot of money, but still, there are limits to the fatigue that the human body can be stretched to, and I've always thought that puts the biggest brunt on the people that can bear it the most, the best players in the game, but still, I do dig the fact that they now give everybody a couple of days after the All-Star weekend to get out there and do their thing. So, this is kind of that week where you got a whole lot. So I'm interested to get into a few things. I want to talk a little bit with Dan when he joins me here. I want to talk heading into the second half of the basketball season, you got some Cavaliers questions, obviously. What are they going to do with the roster here in the next few weeks? We'll talk about some of that. And Golden State, I want to look a little bit more. I mean, there's only one game difference, the pace, but Golden State headed to the All-Star break, one game ahead of the pace of that 96 Bulls team that set the NBA record for the best all-time regular season record. Going to talk about that because, last week when Dan was on with me, we got to talking about the triple-double record, and we were getting into some of the great players, and I saw a couple of the lists that came out this past week of the greatest player. And I love, sarcastically, how some of them jump a guy like Steph Curry into the top of the list of the greatest players in NBA history now already. No way. I'm not saying that the cat's not good, not great, not going to end up the list, but come on, man. I wouldn't let people do that when we were talking about a guy like LeBron James. I'm most definitely not going to do that now, but there were some interesting lists. So we're going to have one of those kind of episodes. We're going to talk a lot of basketball today when Dan joins us, a little bit of baseball, some Buckeyes recruiting. Teased it last week with Dan Wismar as signing day came and went. All these schools wrapped up their football recruiting classes. We'll get an update on what the Buckeyes did and didn't haul away from their big recruiting class this offseason. lot to do. And as I do, I love to get the phones open today. Another great chance to do that. I'm going to crack the phones open. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get the process rolling on that right now. Thank you guys for being with us. Let's rock and roll. Let's have some fun, baby, and kick off this edition of the Sports Fix live across the Sports Fix radio network. Maybe you're listening live on Spreaker and their digital and mobile app. I'll tell you what, I'll get into it in a minute. My boys at Spreaker, I talked to you a little bit, what was it, about a month ago when we found out that they were asking our permission to feature us in their national ad campaign coming up, and they did just that. I played the spot at the beginning of the show. If you didn't hear it, I'm going to get to it again here in just a moment, and we'll talk about it. Really cool stuff. But perhaps you're listening on Spreaker. Maybe you're listening on TuneIn and TuneIn's digital and mobile app. Maybe you're listening live on our website, thesportsfix.net, your one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports, Sports Fix. It's got our social media widgets. It's got the replays of the page. It's got the live feed of the broadcast as it goes, all of that right there. Make sure you bookmark it if you haven't. It's a great resource, thesportsfix.net. Plus, all of our sponsors are on there, and you can do us a favor and go visit some of them because they help make this thing possible and help us able to get out here and do this thing we've been doing now for quite some time. We're closing in on, 8 years overall with the Sports Fix, which, of course, has moved across the spectrum of different radio stations and all different formats. But, man, this thing just keeps plugging along, man. It's the little engine that could, and it's not me. I say it all the time. I mean, I put in the work on this end, but you guys, the heart and soul of this thing is you guys that make up the audience of the Sports Fix across all of the network. As I say it, wherever you're listening, TuneIn, Spreaker, Mixler, all the people that listen on digital delay, thousands of you around the world on sites like iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, on iTunes, on Stitcher Radio, and on all of those places. And however you get your fix, I mean it and I say it. None of this stuff can happen without you guys, and I thank you guys. And speaking of getting your fix, do it. Get up on the phones. Get up on the social media. Be a part of the show now. 216-539-7535, the number to call. 216-539-7535. Facebook, Twitter, email, social media, always blowing up. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with me at The Sports Fix CLE if you want to tweet the show, at J-Rocc Daddy, J-R-O-C-C Daddy. If you want to hit me up directly, you can hit me up on Instagram at J-Rocc Daddy as well. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. There is no shortage of ways to stay in touch with the show. Facebook.com/thesportsfix, Twitter at The Sports Fix CLE, at J-Rocc Daddy, Instagram at J-Rocc Daddy. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. And while you're at it, make sure you like, friend, follow, all of those various places. And you can find me personally on Facebook as well, Jerry Myers, J-Rocc, however you want to look for it. Join the over we're closing in on 26,000 unique social media followers of the Sports Fix. And I want to get back to what I was saying real quick. I've already got calls on the phone. We're going to get to the phones in just a minute, but I was teasing it a little bit ago. Spreaker, which has been such a huge national support. They were really the first national outlet to really get a hold of us after we left WHK and took the show independent and started doing our thing. And I've got to tell you, Spreaker took our show under its wing. We showed them some stuff, growing an audience. Next thing you know, they opened up the door, gave us the platform to have our product introduced to iHeartRadio, who said, hey, we want to bring you guys on board here. They opened up the door to TuneIn. They opened up the door to a lot of the bigger platforms that we ended up at. They've also opened up the door to keeping our doors open. Spreaker, and I've mentioned this on the air, has opened us up to many national advertising campaigns that they have allowed us to be a part of, which has helped me monetize the show on a national level on top of the local level that we do it now, which is how we keep this going, because this is not a subscription service. This isn't a paid service. This is a 100% free product for all of you guys out there to enjoy. That's why we do it, and that's the only way that we can keep it that way. So Spreaker has always supported what we've done, and all really generated on their end. This really started surprisingly one day when the actual owner of the company reached out to us and began a relationship that has continued to grow. About a month ago, I mentioned to you guys on the air that they hit us up and said, hey, Jerry, we would like to include you in a campaign that we're doing across 750 plus iHeart media stations, radio stations across the country, radio, television, internet, advertising. It's basically everything that is an iHeart property, which is everything that used to be called Clear Channel Communications. So here in Cleveland, it's 1100 WTAM, it's 100.7 MMS, it's 106.5, 105.7 Magic. A lot of the bigger stations. There's 6 or 7 in every town. And so anyways, they were starting a campaign to bring some attention to the service of Spreaker and the podcast platform. So I said, yeah, of course, you guys can of course have permission. I figured this would be a great way to maybe get a snippet of the show put onto their commercial, or perhaps to get a tiny mention. And I was blown away the other day. This is a crazy story how I even found out. I didn't realize that the ads had started airing yet. I was checking some back voicemails yesterday, and I happened to find one from Dan Wismar, who's going to join us here in just a little bit. Dan called me the other day and said, "Hey, Jerry, I'm driving down the road," and I didn't get this until yesterday. He said, "Hey, Jerry, I'm driving down the road, and WTAM just played a commercial all about you and the Sports Fix." And I'm like, okay, has anybody else found this? I tracked it down. I got a hold of the people at Spreaker, and I got a link to it, and sure enough, they did they put us on. That's all I can say, and did it very well. Matter of fact, here, I'll play it for you if you guys haven't heard it yet. It's a little 30-second spot here, and I just think this is what I mean when I say it speaks to you guys who helped grow this thing, not me, you guys. But anyways, take a listen to this. This is playing nationally, not on the internet, but across radio stations everywhere. They have decided to feature our little show as a part of their national ad campaign. Take a listen to this, you guys. Let me get this going.
You love sports, and you know a lot. Your friends keep telling you, you should totally start a podcast. Well, it's time you listened and checked out Spreaker.com. People just like you have made their dreams a reality at Spreaker.com. For example, Jerry J-Rocc Myers started a Cleveland sports show called The Sports Fix, and now he has thousands of listeners. J-Rocc rocks, and so do you. Start your own podcast today at Spreaker.com. It's easy and free. That's SPREAKER.com.
Nuts, right? I mean, seriously, there's a little Sports Fix doing our thing over here, chugging along, little engine that could, as I like to call it. That's pretty nifty, and it does put a smile to my face. Again, not a self-congratulatory type of smile, but just, man, we put a lot of work in. I say we all the time because this is a group effort. There's so many of you guys behind the scenes that have helped. So many of you listeners. I mean, every person that listens to this show says, I heard about it from so-and-so who listens to the show. This guy told me to listen. That guy told me to listen. And that is how this whole thing has happened. But yeah, that's pretty nifty. And that's us they're talking about out there. So who knows if maybe that'll open up some new ears to the show, some new opportunities, business opportunities. Maybe it'll blow things open. Or maybe it'll just be a cool little blip in the scrapbook. Either way, I had to tell you guys about it because it's pretty freaking cool, and you guys made that happen. Not me. You guys made that I mean, seriously, they have 10, 20, 30, who knows, 100,000 shows, little mini podcasts on their service. It's a podcast service. The numbers that you guys made them notice is what made them do it. So that's so freaking cool. Thank you guys. Thanks to them. Thought it was cool. Wanted to play it for you guys. I got a whole lot that I want to get into here. I mean, love was in the air this weekend. Love wasn't in the air at the All-Star game because they left my man at home. He's probably one of the biggest snubs, in my opinion, to the All-Star game. That's all you're going to get from me about the All-Star game. You guys know where I'm at. I mean, what'd they score? 7,000 combined points yesterday? I played more defense in the All-Star game yesterday than anybody that was actually in the All-Star game. By not watching it, I defended myself from the horrendous basketball. No, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not a fan of it. Matter of fact, I felt like an old fuddy-duddy talking to a couple of buddies the other day, and these kids are listening to me, jaws open, because they weren't there. And some of you that are just even in your 30s will be like, wow, it's not even that old of a story. But I was talking about my favorite All-Star game over the weekend. To this day, I'll tell anybody, it's the one where Magic retired and then came back because they voted him into the All-Star game. I want to say that was 92. I don't know. I was in my early teen, or not even. What was I? 12, whatever. I want to say that it was 92, but it was the year that Magic got voted in when he was out and had the little one-on-ones throughout the game with everybody. And it was like they just took turns stepping up, and then Magic would guard, Michael would guard him, and then Bird would guard him, and Isaiah would guard him, and he was hitting deeper threes on every one of them. The three-pointer was deeper than the one before, and he won the MVP. I want to say he had 30-some points, and it was just one of those really cool moments. And because I was younger, it's burned in my head. I'm sure there were better All-Star games, but to me, that was the one. And it doesn't feel like those anymore. Maybe it's because there's so much cable overlay and we get to see everybody play. So maybe that's a part of it. So it's not as big of a deal to me to see these big marquee matchups because now we see them all the time on regular TV, whereas there was a lot less exposure to the product. So it was a bigger deal when you saw Magic versus Michael, when you saw, Bird whatever, Malone, all these guys going at it in their heydays. That was a little bigger of a deal. It still is, but not really. Plus they give the token affected defense. Charles Morgan in the chat room says, if I want to watch a sporting event with zero defense, I'll watch the Browns replays from this year. That's a good one, man. But he's right. So that's kind of what runs me off. I do love the three-point shootout. I've said that before. That's one of the things I love the most. No fan of the dunk contest anymore. I do like the three-point shootout. Still do. Klay Thompson won it this year. Splash Brothers, back-to-back, taking that thing. And that one's the one that I still get into. But other than that, can do without it. And I'm done talking about the All-Star game, except to mention, as we know, it was Kobe Bryant's final All-Star game here. A lot I want to get into, but you know what? I want to talk to you guys first before I get rolling, because Dan Wismar is going to join me here in just a moment. Let's go to the phones, Daddy. I'm talking to you. Caller, take us away first off on the Sports Fix.
Good morning, J-Rocc.
Good morning. Is this Bruce, my man?
Yes.
What's happening?
Hey, a couple
Top
of
the
things.
morning to you, Bruce.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Okay, first thing, the All-Star game. Once again,
game.
Baseball is the only original game that means anything. The Pro Bowl was a joke. The NBA All-Star game was just,
right.
It was too boring to watch.
Didn't they have 100 or like 90-something points apiece at halftime of that thing?
Hang on, I got it right here. It was 92-90 at halftime, and it ended 196-173.
At halftime, it was 92-90. That says it all right there. That's a whole NBA game right there, most markets, and that was halftime, baby.
Yeah, and the another thing that got me about the All-Star weekend was the slam dunk contest.
Right.
It's the same dunks, just done a different way.
And that's that's one of the things. I don't just blame the NBA for that. I don't know where else you can go with that. I mean, we're bringing in props, we're jumping over cars, and then we were jumping over ball racks, and then we bring in the 7-footer, and we're going to dunk over our teammate. Like, I get it. There's little things you can do, but other than that, what else can you do? It's just really hard to keep topping yourself, and I think people have seen so much, and now in this era where you got the video games and everything, I just think that it's lost its era. There was a time when, plus now everybody can dunk. I mean, it's a prerequisite that even the slowest of the slow, even the shortest of the short can pretty much dunk in the NBA. So maybe there's not as much to it to me. I don't know, but it doesn't. Just like they think the high scores, I'm sure that the NBA thinks that having 200 points scored for each team shows the world that these are the best players in the world scoring all these points. But it's not like people don't look at it exactly like you and I, and they just go, oh, well, I'm pretty sure I could score 40 points if you weren't going to play defense on me. I mean, I'm just guessing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I don't know that it's
like
that impressive.
They made this great big deal out of LeBron having 291 points in All-Star competition.
Yeah, come on.
When has anybody guarded them?
Well, that's what I mean. I don't take any of those stats, and that's why I didn't even want to talk about the game, other than mentioning that it happened and that I know it happened. Other than that, there's no point. And I'm with you. Pro Bowl, same thing. And even baseball, they're trying to protect it. I do still like the home run derby, not as much as I used to, but that's about it. And I just think a lot of it is because we see it all now. We see everybody play against everybody. There's interleague play in all the sports. All the top athletes play each other, and they overhype them anyway. Curry versus LeBron on Christmas, and this guy versus that guy. They overhype them anyway, so it's not a big deal to see them all play each other at the All-Star. Now, it would be. I will tell you this. If those cats showed up and just one year said, you know what, we're going to just show the world. We just want to go out here and prove who's the best. And they actually played, then I would be willing to say that the NBA All-Star Game could be one of the most awesome things you'll ever see. Imagine now if those guys were out there all playing like it was worth something. Could you imagine how great that game would be if they were all if when LeBron scores 3-4 buckets in a row, Kobe Bryant steps up and says, "Get out of the way. I'm going to stop this guy." You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Then the All-Star Game would be a hell of a game to watch, wouldn't it?
It'd be a lot more interesting than it is now. That's
hell
for sure.
Yeah! You'd see the best of the best really trying to prove who was the best, so that they could walk away. Like in baseball, you want to walk away and say, "Yeah, I only played him once, but I struck him out." You know, if you're the pitcher and you're going against Barry Bonds, you want to go, "Yeah, I struck him out." You know what it
reminded me of? It reminded me of the Globetrotters playing the Washington Generals.
And that's what it feels like. Like you're watching a Globetrotters game. Like you're watching a glorified exhibition. And I think people get that. I think people get it. But we just sound like old fuddy-duddies preaching. But I know that I'm not the only one.
Pretty much.
I'm positive that anybody that watched that game cannot possibly sit there and think that you were watching the greatest against the greatest. You were watching the greatest players, but they were allowing each other to walk up and down the court and do what they wanted to do. And so to me, it's not as cool as it could be. But anyways, go ahead.
Right. Let me switch to baseball a little bit.
Switch to baseball, Bruce, because baseball's on.
Hey.
They're playing some catch right now.
Yes, they are. Here's my thing. Going into the season, we still have UCLA playing third base.
Right. You know what, too? I'm going to get Dan on. It's funny that you mentioned that. I won't go too far with this, but I wanted to talk to Dan about that because one of the things, and I know he's like 40 years old, but third base is one of the places, and I know Dan had brought up a couple of names last week, but what's his name? Marlon Byrd. I know, again, he's like 39, or he'll be 39. I think he's 38 right now, but this guy's like a 25 home run a year. I think the lowest home run total he's had in the last couple years is 23. I don't know about his range over there, but that's somebody to think about too.
Now, I believe the guy that they are talking to is Uribe. Is that his name? Or
oh, yeah.
I can't think of his name right now. Jose or Uribe, I believe, is the guy they're talking to. He's a free agent, has a outstanding glove, has a better bat than Urshela.
I just don't know if Urshela's ready to stick, but, I mean, I don't know for sure, but you can see he's definitely got – he's not Lindor. He's got things to work on still.
Right, but he has a great glove.
For sure, that's where he's good. He's gonna lay it down with the glove.
Right, but I'm just worried about going into the season with a 206 hitter at third base.
Well, that's just it, and that's a power position too. You need to get offensive production from your corner spots in the infield, and so that's what kills you is can you sacrifice it enough? So, and I think that's what leaves it wide open for the Indians to still make a move. I mean, whether it's there or somewhere else, as Dan was mentioning before, there's a couple of guys out there. You got Dexter Fowler. You've got the cat that just played for the Tigers. Austin Jackson's out there. You've got Bird, as I mentioned. You've got a couple of other guys that are out there that are still waiting to end up with teams. Just like, just a couple days ago was the anniversary of when the Tribe did it a few years ago when they went after Michael Bourne to add him to Swisher.
Swisher, right.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the time of the year. And you got to figure those guys are – not trying to cut you off. You got to figure that those guys are looking for a place to play. And every day that goes by, it's less likely that some team's offering them a multi-year deal. And the Indians are going to be able to slip in and say, hey, you want to come play some baseball? Here's $6 million, or here's whatever. Here's a whole bunch of incentive-laden contract type things to come in and play for a year. And then if you do good, you can take a walk. That's what the Indians love to do anyway.
Exactly, and 1-year deals, don't seem to bother us too much, it's
we'll see. But I
3
think
or
it'll
4
be interesting.
years
I think this next week to 10 days is going to show whether that happens or not, because that's where the leverage is. Once you get rolling, these players start panicking if they haven't landed somewhere yet.
But have you seen the free agent list? I mean, it's like an all-star team by itself.
That's what I was saying. There's still quite a few guys at different positions depending on which way you might want to go. So I don't think the Indians are done. I don't think they're going to get anybody that's going to make you go, oh, wow, that changes the whole game. But I do think they can make this team better, and I still think there's something for them to do.
I do too, and third base is like my biggest problem at the moment,
right?
Because we can pretty much cover Brantley until he gets better.
I hope so. I was just reading a big article over the weekend about that. Do we have enough offense to go? We have enough bodies for sure. We got about 13, 14 people.
Oh,
that can
we have more invitees than we have players that were originally on the roster.
But do we have enough that the offense can make up for it? Yeah, they've got, 20, 30 spring training invitees coming in. They're loaded up with guys taking a shot. So it'll be an interesting spring training, which, by the way, what do we got? Couple more days until they actually get to at least putting some uniforms on and pairing off into some semi-athletic activities. I think with the 17th.
Yeah, I believe Friday everybody shows up.
I think Wednesday. No, I think it's the 17th. Wednesday. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it's the 17th.
Okay. Yeah, that was my big thing of a third base. I wanted to run that by you real quick. Anything on the Kevin Love rumors?
Yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm telling you, I'm not buying the Kevin Love part. I do believe the Cavs are looking to make a trade. I don't think they're going to move Kevin Love. I'm going to stick to what I say. Not only is it bad form, but it's practically unheard of for guys to sign huge, long-term maximum contracts and be traded just months later. That is not a common practice in professional sports. You know what I mean?
But even for Carmelo, he said, I don't want to leave New York.
Why would
I'm not planning on going anywhere.
Why would you want Carmelo, first of all? Why? I don't understand why people... Now, I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan of Kevin Love and his fit. I've made my arguments that way, too. Carmelo Anthony is owed 22, 24, 26, and $27 million over the next 4 seasons. And to me, Carmelo Anthony has never proven to me to be able to be a piece on a winning, like a true contending team. He's just a good piece on a bad team. And I know that I'm unfair. I don't like Carmelo Anthony. I'm just not a fan of his game. I just don't think he's as good as some people do. And I had guys over the weekend argue with me and say, oh, man, Melo this and that. Maybe I don't appreciate his game, but feel free to educate me on it, because I do think he's all right, but I do think he's somewhat of a selfish player, and I've never seen anything to lead me to believe that he is the kind of player conducive to what's going to work for the Cavs. That's just another ISO player we're bringing in. I mean, at the same time, this is a guy who doesn't work comfortably in the offense they're trying to run there in New York. He's an isolation player too. How are you going to have another ISO player along with Kyrie and along with LeBron James? I just don't see it. Now, I do think that there is a real possibility that Mozgov ends up traded before the trade deadline, and it's only because his style of play fit David Blatt's style of defensive effort like a glove. It does not fit this new, we don't play deep. Matter of fact, maybe that's why Cavs fans would have enjoyed yesterday's All-Star game, because it looked a lot like a Cavs game lately. They don't play defense. And I will give Tyronn Lue credit. Last game before the break, he straight up said, we're not playing any defense. There's no way to get around it. We're making excuses and saying that we've got to learn the offense, and therefore we're not playing defense. But for all the talk of the change to the game of the Cavs, that's the biggest change. They just stopped playing defense and started outscoring the other team, which, if it brings you a championship,
playing the run and gun.
Right, but that's what they're doing. So Mozgov, he's a lumberer. he's not a run up, and he can run up and down in spurts, but there's no way he can keep up that pace. So I do think he's having a down season, and he's going to want money, although he's not going to get the kind of money that he thought he was going to get at the start of this season. But he's still huge. He's a center who's young. He's going to get a big deal. If you pay Tristan Thompson $80-some million, you got to think some team's going to give at least that much to Timothy Mozgov. So I do think there's a possibility that Mozgov does end up traded in the next couple weeks. But I don't think it's going to be Kevin Love, and I don't think they're going to get Carmelo Anthony. And I'll once again make the joke, how many All-Stars does it take to win a championship in Cleveland, man?
Oh, exactly. That leads me to Andy. Andy looks like he's not the same Andy he used to be.
I agree.
He's not. I don't know. He looks a step slower, a couple steps slower.
He is slow.
And he's just not, he's not the guy that, does the flop on the floor anymore. He's just.
He is slower, and he's got the leg injuries, which are going to sap some of that away, too. I do think that I don't think he has a lot of trade value, to be honest, and I think he's got more value to the Cavs than he does to somebody else, especially in lieu of if they were to make a trade of a Mozgov. They're going to need bigs. I mean, they're strong in the bigs right now, but obviously there's more trade value in Mozgov than Andy, and I do think that I just don't see what you're going to get in return for him, and I think he's a good backup big to have. I know what you're saying, and he is definitely not the same, but he's good coming off the bench. But I don't think he has any trade value. If he did, I'd be much more with you and say that's a real possibility, especially with this contract. But I just don't think he has a whole lot of trade value. I just think the most likely Cav, if a Cav's going to get moved, it would be Mozgov. And other than that, I don't see a lot of options on this roster to make a trade. Look, you can call me crazy. If they trade Kevin Love, then just say I was wrong, and I'll be the first to admit it. But I cannot see a scenario. It's just unheard of for teams to sign. It'd be one thing if he was even 2 years into his contract, Bruce, but to sign a guy at the end of the summer to a max deal, I mean, that's a commitment, and you don't trade it. Because at that point, if I'm an athlete in the future, why would I believe that a long-term commitment from this team is a real long-term commitment? I'm giving you the next 6 years of my life. 3 months later, you're going to trade me somewhere else, and I've now lost control over my career because I now get traded to Timbuktu or wherever you're going to send me. So I just think it's bad business, and that's why it doesn't happen. And so I think people are crazy if they think the Cavs are going to move Kevin Love unless it is part of the most unheard of blockbuster trade ever, which I guess Carmelo Anthony would fit in that category, but I'm not buying it. What about you? I don't know.
Well, here's one I read the other day. The Cavs pay more in salary cap or
luxury
whatever
tax.
It is, luxury tax.
Yeah.
Then 4 teams pay their whole roster.
I know. Isn't that crazy? That is so true. Guys, if you haven't heard that before, the Cavs actually are beating 4 teams' total payroll, and I don't have the teams in front of me, but with their luxury tax bill. That's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, why get Carmelo when the luxury tax would go up even more?
Right. And do the math in the next 3 seasons when he's got that $25 million a year plus coming out of your salary cap there, brother.
I agree.
I know the salary cap's going up. I
point.
get that, but still. Anyways, we got to wrap it. What's up, Bruce?
I said that was my last point. I wanted to get the All-Star game, the Indians, and the Cavs roster moves in before Dan came on.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Last thing before we go. What do you think? Golden State, they're 1 game better than the Bulls were at this point in their 72-win season. You think Golden State is going to set the record?
I'm watching it kind of close, but you got to realize that Golden State has had no injuries in the last 2 years.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Injuries are a big part of any sport, and they have just been gliding through injury-free here. So, providing they don't have any injuries, I don't see, any problem at all.
Well, I'm going to talk about that when we come back, and I want to get into some basketball, some hoops talk with Dan Wismar and more. Bruce, thanks for the phone call, my friend.
Not a problem, J-Rocc. And congratulations on your radio spots.
Well, it is cool, but thank you, because you did it as much as me, my man. All right, that's buddy Bruce. You guys, let's hit the break real quick. Wow, that was blew through the first segment, man. I'll hit the phones back up a little bit later on in the show. I'm going to take a break, get you some news, get Dan Wismar in on the conversation, and get right back to it. We're going to talk some more basketball. We'll hit the NBA coming into the second half, Cavaliers going forward. We'll talk about Steph Curry, Michael Jordan, the Bulls, the Warriors. Where's that going to play out? Buckeyes recruiting and more. Dan Wismar is on top of it all, and he's with us next after the news here on the Sports Fix.
And Raw Simpson is really mean. Bill Russell didn't take no jump, and Dow Dawkins got a monster dump. Tell me, were you in the jump? The night Will scored 100 points. When Celtics won titles back to back and didn't give nobody no kind of slack. When Dr. J shook the whole damn team with moves that came right out of a dream. When Willis Reed stood so tall, playing D with desire. Yes, basketball. To the hoop, yo.
The Sports Fix, your choice for intelligent talk.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Intelligent talk.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good, though.
It could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
These guys must be on the wrong station.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was terrible.
Get him away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!
The Sports Fix.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize. I mean, a really real prize. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's fantasy sports superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
I'm Little Teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle, and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and
pour me out. This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Football season is party season at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. And no matter who you root for, everyone wins at Harry Buffalo. Every Saturday is Coors Light College Football Saturday with $6 pitchers, 4 bottles for $10, and the Buckeyes in full HD. Every Sunday, all the Browns action with Bud Light beer specials and $10 hair of the dog pitchers.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Plus, every Monday night, catch the Monday Night Football action with some of your favorite Browns players. Football season is most definitely party season, and your headquarters is Harry Buffalo, North Olmsted, all winter long. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd. Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Bob Picozzi, but can you put the toothpaste back in the tube? One day after embattled coach George Karl convinced general manager Vlade Divac to let him keep his job, the Sacramento Kings will play the 76ers in Philadelphia tonight, but ESPN NBA insider Mark Stein remains skeptical.
They just look listless. They don't look like a team responding to the coach, so I'm frankly surprised that they can take this step and try to patch this thing together. I mean, how are the players going to respond? I think that's the big
News break.
I'm Christine Lisi. This is what you need to know. Knicks superstar Carmelo Anthony not interested in going anywhere. He's one of a handful of players with a no-trade clause, doesn't plan on waiving it at this point. Anthony dismissed a report he could be on his way to join the Cavs and good friend LeBron James. New York currently 12th in the East, 5 points out of the final playoff spot. The NBA trade deadline is 3 Eastern on Thursday. Stay tuned to ESPN Radio and Sports Center for the latest on potential deals. 7th-ranked Virginia looks to bounce back from a tough loss to Duke in tonight's matchup against NC State. 7 Eastern on ESPN. Cavaliers are a game and a half back of number 9 North Carolina in the ACC. An interesting admission from Texans running back Arian Foster appearing on comedian and actor Michael Rappaport's podcast, I Am Rappaport. Foster said he doesn't watch football anymore, with his only exception being Super Bowl 50 last weekend. What's ruined it for Foster? The business side of the sport. Foster, making his way back from a torn Achilles, will count for more than $9 million against Houston's salary cap unless the Texans release him.
The only thing worse than sitting in traffic is all of the wear and tear your engine experiences from the constant stop and go. So do your engine a favor. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics, made from natural gas and designed for complete protection. Pennzoil Synthetics.
Hey Cleveland, this is Anderson Varejão of the Cleveland Cavaliers. You are listening to the Sports Fix.
Now, back to the Sports Fix. Your choice for intelligent talk.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live. J-Rocc back with you here as we roll on. Getting ready to be joined by Dan Wismar, my man from Everybody Hates Cleveland. And we're going to keep the conversation going. Talk some basketball, talk a little Indians, Buckeyes. Who knows? It's always off and running wherever we go with Dan Wismar. The news was off and running there. Started playing last news update there for a minute. I'm down making notes, and I hear the 76ers are playing or whatever they said, and I go, no, they're not. It's All-Star Week. Dang on it. And so anyways, back we are live, and this is live as can be. And here we go. Thank you for joining us live. Tune in, Spreaker, Mixler, however you're listening to the show. Thank you for being here. Phone's not open because Dan is currently residing on the hotline. You guys, Facebook, Twitter, email, you know how to do it. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, Twitter @TheSportsFix, CLE, all one word, or tweet me directly at JRockDaddy, Instagram me, JRockDaddy, email TheSportsFix@AOL.com. The reason you can't call is this man right here, Dan the Man Wismar. Dan, how you feeling this Monday?
I'm doing great, J-Rocc, my friend. Happy President's Day to you.
Absolutely. Same to you. And we got a presidential week here. Like I said, it's kind of that week. It's that other week of the year. There's this one in the summertime where it's probably the two slowest as far as what's going on the different things. But I like it, man. I like being able to every once in a while just kind of go off and spread our wings and fly and have a conversation. We'll talk some hoops if you're up for it, man.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I was able to stomach about the first half of the first quarter last night. I saw about 3 LeBron dunks and about 3 LeBron turnovers. So I said, okay, well, that's enough. And I went ahead and watched something else. But, yeah, the All-Star game, and I wasn't able to catch any of the side shows there, the 3-point shooting. I watched a little bit of the 3-point shooting. I watched the very last part of it when Klay Thompson kind of came from behind and nosed out Curry there for the win, but missed the entire slam dunk thing. Although I'm a big Zach LaVine fan, I like his game on the court in addition to watching him dunk. But in fact, it's been a little bit of a puzzle to me this year how the Timberwolves are so bad when they have so much talent on that team. But they will come around, I think. But anyway, yeah, didn't see much of All-Star Weekend. Like I said, about a half a quarter's worth of the game was enough to say, this is going to be a run and gun alley-oop show, and enough is enough. I wanted to see a little bit, and then I ran out of patience very quickly with it.
I was asking Bruce when he called in the first segment, could you imagine how good, though, and how I would believe it would be the best sporting spectacle you could see if you took the All-Star game rosters and then they legitimately played a basketball game against each other. Winner take all. We're going to just play. Like you hear the legend of when the 92 Dream Team, the practices they'd have against each other where you had like the greatest of all time just tearing each other apart. That would be some hella entertaining basketball, and I would tune into every second of that. Like I said, if LeBron scores a couple in a row and here comes Kobe and says, get out of the way, I'm going to stop this guy right here, and they were really playing ball, the NBA would have the best all-star game of all the sports, no doubt in my mind.
Oh, yeah. In other words, if you added some defense to what we saw last night.
Right, if they were really playing ball, could you imagine?
Yeah, that would be fun, and I'm sure those Olympic practices were something else. But, yeah, that's not what we were watching last night, and that's why I got checked out early.
So I was mentioning when we were talking, though, in the first segment about all-star games, my favorite, I think to this day, the one that just resonates emotionally, the one that sticks, like that I remember, is that Magic one, where he went to town and, of course, was not supposed to play, and they voted him in, and now that happens all the time, but that was kind of unprecedented then to vote a guy in who wasn't playing, and there was all the controversy. Matter of fact, I was talking to some guys over the weekend. I said it was Mark Price who was in the middle of a lot of controversy that weekend, because Mark Price is a highly religious guy, and he's very open with his beliefs, and that was a time when people didn't know anything about AIDS yet. They didn't know. And it was the real kind of Wild West as far as still even learning about how you transferred it. And I remember Mark Price got all kinds of heat from the media and national press because he said, I'm not sure that I want to play with this guy. I don't know what happens if he bleeds on me or something like that. And it was a legitimate question. It wasn't like it was done with any maliciousness, but that one sticks out to me because of those one-on-one matchups. Because at the end of it, Magic called out Michael, and then he called out Larry and went one-on-one, and he hit the deeper three on every time down at the end of the game. I thought that was an all-star game. That's the one that I remember. Is there any that you remember?
I got to admit, no, there aren't. I probably pay as much attention year to year to it as I did last night.
Well, there you go.
Because it is such a one-on-one type show. As far as All-Star games go, there is only one, and it happens in early July, and I sort of romanticize that too. I'm sure a little bit because going back to when I was a kid, it was the only chance we got to see the National League players.
Yes,
outside of the World Series, and so I could watch and see Hank Aaron and Willie Mays and Roberto Clemente and people like that I could only read about the rest of the year, and that's what really made it special for me to watch a baseball All-Star game, because that was it outside of when the World Series rolled around.
And that was even me too, Dan, as far as baseball, because cable overlay really got going in my childhood, so that was not yet a factor like it is now, which I really think is the biggest thing that takes away from all of it, is we already see all of these guys face each other. But like you said, before interleague play, before any of that, the only time Roger Clemens could pitch to Barry Bonds would be if their teams met in the World Series. So when you did get to see them pitch against each other, it was a thing, especially when you believed at the time that there was competitiveness to it. Like, you want to believe that, man, he got me on that one. He struck me out. You don't want to believe that they go, go, who cares? Let's, even if backstage they're like, hey man, who cares? Let's go have a steak. You want to believe that the best wants to compete against the best and see where they stack up,
Right, and they say now that it's the best because it means something. It matters.
Oh God,
and
no.
There's something to that, but I wish it didn't. I think you and I are in agreement on
Not
that.
the World Series thing.
I wish they would go back to the exhibition format where the game always mattered and it was always intense, and the players always competed hard. It wasn't, it didn't start being that way when they started, making the World Series home field depend on it. So I really wish they would go back to that. I think it was an idiotic thing to do in the first place, and I wish they'd go back to having the best record matter for World Series home field. But
right.
In any event, I wish they would do away with it, but so far they haven't called me and asked me my opinion.
Yeah, I don't like when they alternate. They find all these weird ways to determine it, like just the best record. That's it, like they do in basketball. Whoever's the overall number one seed gets the home field in whatever the final is. But that's nuts that baseball does that. But anyways, you know what else I used to like though? And some of this is childhood. Again, I'm thinking of even that game that I described back in 92. I was still younger, so I think I still believe that they were really playing against each other. But I used to love to watch the rare appearances by Cleveland players. Like, especially in the 80s, in my childhood, man, that was the era to me of all the greats, the Magics, the Birds, the Jordans, all these guys. So when Mark Price would get in there and he'd score 20 points in the All-Star, I thought that would just be the coolest thing when those things would happen, when you'd see the Brad Daugherty sighting or a Larry Nance appearance, because those weren't just good players. Those were like all-time legendary players. And here was Mark Price popping up and scoring, 19, 20 points with the giants of the game. Those were cool things to me as a kid about the All-Star game, seeing your guy. And I guess nowadays kids can't look at it that way because we've got Michael Jordan on our team. And I don't mean LeBron's Michael Jordan, but I mean the big star. We're not the little old Cavaliers anymore as far as the level of recognition of our players. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and you're right. It was fun to see our guys step up, and just like it is in any of the games, any of the All-Star games. But
right.
Wanted to get back to your point earlier, and speaking of Cavs, just I'm not a Melo guy either. I said as soon as I heard that rumor, I said I want no part of Melo in Cleveland. I think you're right. He's a me guy. He's never they won an NCAA championship with him at Syracuse, but beyond that, he's maybe he's been saddled in a lousy franchise his whole career, but that's the kind of player he is. It's I'm going to get my 25 shots in. The rest of you guys, do what you can. But by the way, I saw a side-by-side comparison the other day of Melo's stats versus Kevin Love's stats, and Love beats him in every single category, including some of the advanced numbers. But points per game and just the line throughout their I'm not sure how far back those numbers went, whether it was the season or this season and last, or I don't think it was the whole career, but in general, Love's a better player. And when you put that on top of that Love's a far more unselfish player, far more of a team player and a teammate, seems to me like a no-brainer. Now, it does seem like, Jerry, it's true that, the Cavs have been shopping Love.
I know.
Because,
I do hear that.
You hear those rumors from other NBA cities who are in a position to know whether their management's talking to David Griffin about Kevin Love. So apparently it is true that they've been shopping him, but the word is that the price is extraordinarily high, and as it should be. It seems like it's unlikely that he'll move. That's a lot of money to move.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, like you say, it doesn't happen too often. So I'm in favor of keeping him. But it is interesting that Griffin's shopping him.
Well, even that point, I was talking to some guys over the weekend, and you hear the stories we were just talking about last week about, hey, the Lakers and the Cavs got on the phone and said, hey, Kobe for LeBron. So, finding out the value, having the discussions, and really being interested in doing anything. If somebody wanted to offer me a price on anything I own right now, I would at least listen to them, and then I would, weigh it out. But, and I've heard the same thing. Clearly they're taking phone calls, but let me ask you, can you off the top of your head think of a big name player who signed a maximum long-term contract who was traded a month or two later or 3 months later, however long it's been now?
Well, no, not really. Not off the top of my head, I can't. But I don't know how on top of those kinds of things I really am. But
well, I mean,
no, it's not something that you see done very often, and it's reason enough to just believe that this is maybe just a little shopping expedition to see what might be out there. The Cavs supposedly have their eyes on certain players, and I heard some Boogie Cousins talk not long ago. I'm not sure I want to go there either in terms of this team and a fit, but. In any event, tis the season, they say, of doing that sort of thing and having those kinds of conversations. So I don't think you can put a whole lot of stock in any of them. Certainly not me without any insight into what people in the organization are thinking.
Now, if I could get DeMarcus Cousins for Mozgov, Varejao, couple of first-round draft picks, I'll make that trade all day long because I do like.
Oh,
DeMarcus
sure,
Cousins.
yeah. If you can not give up Love and get Cousins, for a couple of bigs and a number one or two, yeah, absolutely. I think
all day because I think DeMarcus Cousins is one of the most underrated guys out there. I mean, he's
a big time. He's a big time talent, and obviously still very very young too. So you gotta figure the age in there as well.
I mean, he's buried over there in Sacramento, and I know he had issues with the coach that can always cause problems too. But he's a beast. I would love it. But outside of that, some of the other names, and obviously there's some good fit things. The Joe Johnson name. This is the second year in a row that name is heavily rumored that if Brooklyn and that's different because that's a buyout. We're not talking about even moving anything out. Being able to bring a guy on if he's willing to take the veteran minimum at this point. And so there's talk of him. There's talk we mentioned last week a couple of the trade rumors that are out there and getting a sharpshooter in it, which that's something intriguing. What do you think, if you could pick one thing, what do you think the Cavs need if they're going to add something in the second half?
Boy, that's hard to say because I think, you've got I think your point guard situation is pretty well situated.
I'd agree. Yeah.
And it's not as though this team needs somebody else to throw threes from behind the 3-point line. With Love and JR and LeBron and Kyrie and James Jones, there's plenty of guys out there that are quote unquote 3-point specialists. If not, if they're not specialists, they at least attempt a lot of them. JR never met one he didn't like, and Kyrie can throw them too. So, LeBron, of course, shoots a bunch of them, but he's, I think, maybe still the lowest rated 3-point shooter in the NBA right now. So I don't think he's cracked 30% yet. He was down around 27 the other day, and probably taking fewer 3-point shots because of that. But I'm not so sure Kyle Korver, for that reason, is
right.
The kind of target that you want to go for. I think still the thing that this team lacks a little bit is a true three. LeBron obviously is your starting small forward, but he's also your starting point guard, 2 guard, and power forward. When he wants to be. So that's why a lot of us sit here wistfully thinking about what Andrew Wiggins might have looked like on this team.
You just took the words out of my mouth because I was about to say it. We just need a defensive, athletic 3 to back up LeBron. Where could we find one of those?
Where could we find a guy like that? But anyway, that's water under the bridge. But that to me is what they lack. I mean, when RJ comes off the bench, and he's a little bit erratic lately, but I like him but you wish you had a little bit more depth at the 3, I guess, and not just because of the 3-point shooting, maybe a little bit more of the slasher type guy like a Wiggins is, and a little bit more quickness and maybe some defense to guard the opposing 3, that kind of a profile.
I think that's why Morris was intriguing to me from Phoenix because he defensively guards guys like Draymond Green very well, and that to me is the one place they got to go. Trevor Ariza is not a bad name I heard out there. Ben McLemore, I like him, by the way. Another guy. Sacramento, I don't know where they are as far as the building of their team. I'm not sure how many years they've been doing this now, the rebuild, but they've got a good squad, man. I mean, I've seen some of their stuff, some of their late night games. Every once in a while, they'll be the team that I watch, and they've got some pieces. McLemore's another one. So those, and I think I'm more interested in the younger, more athletic guys than necessarily the Joe Johnson types. And Kyle Korver, I don't know. I mean, I'm with you. Kind of a. I mean, if you need more three-pointers, just let Kevin Love take more or like you have the players, just incorporate that into your offense. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
it's not
no
like
doubt.
we
all
need
three of
more
our point
shooters.
Guards, Deli, Mo, and Kyrie are all guys that can take and hit the three. So it's not as though you lack for players to take threes and make them. So that's why Korver is of limited interest to me.
Right. And let's get out there and learn some defense on his way to Cleveland. I'm not even interested in talking about that. Here's something I'm interested in talking about while we're doing hoops. Let's switch off the Cavs. They've got a couple more days, which, by the way, I mentioned it. I don't know if you think the same way. I am big on the extra. It's almost a full 8-9 days off now for the All-Star break, because I did think that's one of the places where I thought the players had a fair argument, is the guys that were going to the All-Star game, the best of the best, the ones that are representing your league out there. They're getting a day off after the All-Star game, and then it's right back to work. And I thought, man, that's kind of like the reverse of a reward. Like, instead of it almost makes, and that's why players would say, you know what, I'd almost rather not go to the All-Star game. So I dig the fact that they get 4 or 5 days here to get back to work with their team and get a little bit of a break, because it is a long season. And that was something that I thought was a flaw that they fixed. Another flaw, I don't know if you heard the commissioner over the weekend, but serious talk about putting some different types of penalties on the whole hack-a-shack thing. I don't know exactly how they would do that, but are you someone that wants to see that strategy taken out of the game? Or I'm not that guy. I kind of believe that it's an overall game, and if you know you've got a player who, just like, hey, if he can't go to his left, you force him to his left. If he can't shoot threes, you force him outside. If he can't shoot foul shots, you force him to shoot foul shots. I don't think the league should legislate a weakness in players' game and make it better. What do you think?
Well, I'm a little bit conflicted on that. I agree that learn to shoot free throws better.
Yes,
Mr. Drummond, Drummond, or the guy in Houston.
Hell, LeBron at this point.
The LA Clippers guy, whose name is escaping me. But anyway, it's like Bobby Knight used to say: you want a closer game, get a better team. In other words, it's not my job to make the game closer. But improve your free throw shooting, and then you won't have this to worry about. I'm kind of leaning that direction. On the other hand, the commissioner has a job to make the game be as entertaining as possible, and certainly that makes the game less entertaining.
It does.
When you're inbounding the ball and then walking down the other end to shoot 2 free throws repeatedly, time after time. I think you've seen teams stop doing that recently with Tristan Thompson, by the way, because he
got better.
He got better at it, right? So there's a way to stop that from happening and being used against you. It's called practice your free throws and get better at it.
And Dan, that's not a new part of the game either. They were hacking.
Not at all.
Wilt Chamberlain was getting hacked at the end of games for 40 years ago or whatever because he was.
I think maybe they used to just make it look better. It wasn't quite so obvious that, okay, as soon as you inbound the ball, we're going to jump on your big, awkward center's back and make him go to the free throw line. So I think maybe they're just a little bit less tactful about it now than they used to be.
You know what I'd like to see, though, brought back in general, and they don't. It's never going to happen. Games don't go backwards in their rules, but I mean, this sticks out to me like a thumb because of doing high school ball, is the 1-and-1. Because I thought that's one of the things that makes guys better free throw shooters, because you only get the second one if you make the first one. And, you blow enough 1-and-1s in a game, you could change the course of the way a game can play out. And I liked the aspect of having to earn that second free throw. I don't even remember when it was that the NBA did away with that, but what do you think about that? I mean, that to me just adds to the skill set of free throw shooting.
Yeah, you're right, and I don't know if I would advocate the NBA going back to a one-on-one, but you're right. It did force you to make one to earn the second one, and it would probably, I don't know, frankly, whether that would increase the amount of, hack a guy
or
kind of philosophy.
Decrease,
it probably would make it maybe even worse because that if he misses the first one, he doesn't even get the second one. So that's I don't know that would be something that would mitigate the problem.
Very true. No, you're absolutely right. That's I don't know though. How do you legislate it away though? I mean, do you make it? I guess you make it like a technical.
One idea
you could just give possession.
One idea that I heard floated. Jerry, was award the team 1 point. In
just
other
an
words,
automatic
don't give
point.
them 2, but just award them a point and the free throws, or
that makes
chalk one up if it can be ruled to be a quote-unquote intentional foul.
That's where you get tricky, though, is how, obviously then guys will be trying to learn how to make it not as intentional. I like the free point. I guess the other thing you could do is make it like a tech and just give them possession after the free throws, which basically eliminates the point of fouling the guy because they're going to keep the possession anyway.
Yeah, that's true, and that seems like, and I think it would be a pretty radical precedent to set that you're going to give a team a point without the ball going through the basket. That would be, that's something that would maybe set a precedent that you don't want to allow in your league.
You think that's rife for suspicion of all kinds of crooked things then, because the first time you give a team the free point and then there's that could blow up in their face. But interesting to see what they do with that. The other thing I wanted to talk about, basketball. By the way, we've switched over into hour 2 here, guys. You're listening to the Sports Fix. J-Rocc, Dan Wismar, talking about some hoops here at the NBA All-Star break heading into the second half. We were talking some Cavs trades. Another thing, I guess the opposite side of the Cavs that is going to be the most interesting in the second half is Golden State. They're chasing down history. 72-10 is the Chicago Bulls. I was the biggest, that was my era of hoops in my teenage years, and Jordan was the man, and, unfortunately he built it on the back of the Cavs, but that's a different story. But anyways, I remember that season, and the Warriors are a game better at the same point than the Bulls were at that time. What do you think? I've got to think that the odds are in their favor just because of the lack of depth in the league, that they finish this thing off and at least get the 73 wins to give themselves the best regular season record of all time.
Well, it certainly could happen. Right now you're not even talking about being at the halfway point. You're under 30 games to go. And the potential losses for them, if you start looking at their schedule and seeing where those L's might come. Now, I haven't done that, but I know that they've already come east and played and beaten the best teams in the East on their home courts. They've beaten the Bulls, they've beaten the Cavs. I don't know if they've been to Toronto yet, but obviously, and you can't really even say anymore that necessarily the West is tougher than the East. I don't know how that head-to-head record has been playing out at this point in the season, but after 30, 40 games, it was pretty darn close, and you can't really say that the West is as dominant as it's been in the last several seasons. So you can't necessarily say, well, they play in the West, so they're going to be playing a lot more tough games and they have a chance to accumulate some more losses. I don't really see that happening.
No, and you and I talked about that too.
Sure, it's absolutely possible they could do it, and I hope they, and a part of me hopes they do it. Why not? That way, if the Cavs beat them in the finals, it'll be all the sweeter.
There you go. Michael Jordan said, too, he hopes that they beat it. But I will say this. I don't care if they do or not. That Bulls team is the greatest single-season NBA team of all time, in my opinion, even with what the Warriors are doing. What the Bulls did that year was unheard of. Now, the Warriors did have a better winning streak. Theirs went 24. The Bulls' longest in that season was only 18. But check out this split. They led the league in scoring at over 105 points a game and gave up only 92. They had a 12.5-point differential between their offense and their defense. They were one of the best defensive teams in NBA history. They only lost 2 home games that year, and they won more road games than any team in NBA history over a season. Plus, they swept every round of the playoffs straight through until they got Seattle in the finals of that thing, man. So
yeah. Now I will say that, and I'm not sure what it is right now, but I know that the Warriors' point differential is in the neighborhood of 12 right now.
Yeah, I do. I know you are right. Yes.
I think the Spurs is 10 or 11, and I think the Warriors are right around 12. So yeah, they're right on that pace as well too in terms of dominance game to game.
So the Warriors won their first 24. So from that point, they went 24-0. They're 48-4 now. So they've gone 24-4 in the middle third of the season there, or middle maybe 30% of the season when you look at it. And looking ahead, like coming out of the break, I'll tell you what, they've got their long second longest road trip of the season coming up for them. They come out, and it's a lot of, as you said, you got the Clippers, they got the Thunder in there, they've got the Hawks on the road. They've got, I think, a 6-game road trip coming up here out of there that'll be really big. But you got to think the odds are in their favor. And yeah, that point differential, I think it is right around that same number, which is it's an argument to make. And you know what? That switches me into the same thing. People, and we were getting into this last week. This is why I saved this for you. You started talking about the triple doubles and the difference in how people look at feats that guys accomplish now and what they did in the past. And it got me to looking at some stuff over the weekend. I don't know if you saw it. With it being All-Star Weekend, people put all kinds of different things out. I saw ESPN, I saw Sports Illustrated, a couple other places put out their NBA greatest players of all time list. And some people make me laugh. How many people start putting Steph Curry near the top of that list now? And granted, he's had a great season and a half, 2-season run here or whatnot, but I think that's ridiculous. Now, in all fairness, the two main ones here, ESPN and Sports Illustrated, both had him about 30th overall on the list. But I often laugh at people that overemphasize the now and instead of putting it into context with so many of the greats like we were talking about last week.
Yeah, and typically it's younger people who never saw Kareem Abdul-Jabbar play, for example, or let alone Wilt or Russell or Robertson or Elgin Baylor or any of the greats of yesteryear. So if your memory only goes back to Michael Jordan, say, then you might put a player of today in the top 10 if you never saw the 15 guys that are greater than that.
I totally agree with you. Absolutely. And as I said, like ESPN, I believe they've got LeBron in their top 5 all time on that one, which again, I believe he ends up there. They've got him 3rd all time already. But here, ESPN's top 10 of all time. I'm curious how many of these you'd agree with. They've got Hakeem number 10, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaq, Tim Duncan, Bill Russell, Larry Bird. That's number 6. And then your top 5, you've got Wilt, Magic, LeBron, Kareem, and Michael Jordan, number 1.
It's hard to argue with the top 5, except that you might move LeBron down. I don't know that I would put LeBron top 5 right now, but it's hard to argue with that. I'm not quite as big a Shaq advocate to be top 10. Maybe as some other people would be, but certainly I guess probably top 15 for him. No Kobe in the top 10, right?
They've got Kobe 11th. They've got Kobe, Oscar Robertson.
The third greatest scorer all time, from what I understand. Hard to argue with too many of those. Like I said, I'm not that big of a Shaq guy.
Oh, and I'm with you there, too. I think Shaq was great. I will give him that. But Shaq could have been so much greater had his work ethic matched the physical gifts that he had. Because I remember him coming out of LSU and he had the world in his hand, and he wanted to be a rapper, he wanted to be an actor. He started that whole trying to do the global everything thing, and I just think had he put all that effort into basketball, as dominant as he was physically, he would be top 5 all time. And I think that even not, he's in the top 15, top 20, but I don't have him top 10. But I think he, as good as he was, I'll put Shaq on my list as one of the biggest waste of talents. As far as great as you think he is, he could have been one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, and by the way, I did not hear you mention Oscar Robertson.
Oscar Robertson's number 12 on that list. I was going to mention that to you, and I'm like, man,
kind of a joke. Kind of a joke.
Big O has to be there. you know?
Yeah, that can't be right.
ESPN
anyway,
had...
That's just me. And I saw him play live one time when I was 12 years old. It's not like I grew up watching him or anything. But I just happen to know from all you got to do is look at the numbers and I just think he probably is top 5, not just top 10.
Oh, I agree with you. The only other players active in the top 25, you've got Kobe was 11, Dirk 17, Curry 21, and Durant 23. So they've got Kevin Durant already in the all-time top 25, and he hasn't even won a championship, hasn't done a lot of things yet. I think it's somewhere he'll maybe end up because I love Kevin Durant's game, but how do you put him in the top 25 with Jason Kidd behind him, Isaiah Thomas behind him, Steve Nash, Peyton, Clyde Drexler, Walt Frazier, Bob, all these guys are behind a guy like Durant. Now, if Durant had a couple rings already, I could see you going, hey, he's already won some gold, but I mean... Man, that's where I start going, I don't know about that.
Where do they have the best player in the NBA today, Russell Westbrook?
Oh, Russell Westbrook's actually down near the, I think he's 47th.
Yeah, he's too young, but I do think, again, even after watching half a quarter of the All-Star game last night, I think he's the best player in the league.
Oh, I think Russell Westbrook is slept on a lot. I'm absolutely with you. I really like his game. I think I like watching I've liked watching that experiment, although I think it's going to come to an end. I got a feeling Kevin Durant's going to leave. But, watching them two play together, as much as I like Durant, Westbrook is so valuable. When he goes out, that team misses more, I think, than they do when Kevin Durant's out because he can do it all. I mean, he controls the ball. He's a good point guard, but he can be that modern type point guard that can just take over the game.
Oh, no doubt. When he goes to the basket, he's just unstoppable.
Right.
He's just unstoppable. That's all there is to it.
He's cold-blooded. I mean, he just shoot unconscious, And no, I'm a big fan. And it's just funny the differences, by the way, because Sports Illustrated did the same list, and they've got guys in a completely different order. Like, Wilt Chamberlain didn't even make the top part of that list on ESPN. He's third all time on Sports Illustrated. I'm a little bit more towards the SI list, although they've still got LeBron 5. They've got their top 10. Jordan's number 1, Kareem number 2, Wilt Chamberlain 3rd, Magic number 4, LeBron's 5th, Big O is 6, Larry Bird 7, Bill Russell 8, Jerry West 9, Tim Duncan 10, Kobe Bryant checks in at 12th. And then Shaq's actually at 15th on that list, and then it continues to go. But I like that top 10 a bit more than I do the ESPN one.
Yeah, I would say I would too with Oscar number 6. Yeah,
and Kareem. I mean, again, Kareem to me stays at the top. I mean, he'll slowly start moving as guys pass him up in the list. But I mean, Kareem, I grew up with him too, and maybe you're always colored towards the guys that you've seen. But even though he was at the end, I grew up with Kareem at the end of his career, by the way. I don't have memories of Lou Alcindor and the big Afro Kareem. I've got bald-headed goggles, still helping the Lakers win championships Kareem,
Yeah, exactly. Well, when I was a high school kid, he was in college. So, 67 through 70, when he was playing at UCLA, those were my 3 high school years. So that's when I was at my peak of admiring the people that were the stars, the college stars of my day.
Absolutely.
But he was winning 3 consecutive NCAA championships.
I mean, and to be a part of that team that he was a part of in college, I mean, all that stuff. I mean, Kareem to me stays where he's at on the list. Plus 20 years of 15 and however many rebounds. He won 6 rings. Yeah, absolutely. I think Kareem's one that gets slept on a lot by people. You know what's an interesting one, and I'm just curious what you say about this while we're on the topic. Bill Russell, because I've got some younger friends and some older friends, and we'll have these little chats every once in a while, which are some of my favorite sports chats. I hate when we're talking about Johnny Manziel or we're talking about is this guy selfish. I like much more stuff like this because it's a bit more opinionated. But Bill Russell, I've got some younger friends that give him no credit at all because of the era that he played in and the size difference and the athleticism and the caliber of the other players that he was playing against. But, man, I mean, how do you sleep on a guy who's got more rings than fingers, man?
Yeah, that's true. And my remembrance of Bill Russell, obviously he was on Boston Celtics team, so I hated the teams, because they were so dominant. And, the Celtics were the Yankees. I mean, it was the same situation, utter dominance over a decade or more of my childhood, where they would just win it every year. But I will say this about Bill Russell: not the greatest offensive player. Wilt, much better offensive player.
For sure.
No better defensive center ever have I seen in my life. As a defensive player, he was unbelievable. As a shot blocker, as a rebounder, as an overall defensive talent, an intimidator, a changer of shots. I can't remember ever seeing anyone better on play defense from the center position.
I'm going to ask you this because it sets up my next question. Bill Russell, if he was in today's game, would he still be as dominant as he was?
Oh, I think so. I think he might be a 4 instead of a 5.
You're right about that because of the size.
6'9".
Yeah.
I'm not sure how tall he was. I think he was only about 6'9". But I think he would be. I think he would still be dominant. And I don't want to slight his offensive game, but he wasn't the dominant dunker that Wilt Chamberlain was. But just as a team player, and then obviously he was a big reason that the Celtics were perennial champions. They had a few other talents on that team too, yes, but he was the guy.
And the reason that I asked that is because just the other day we were having this conversation, and he's just sleeping all over Bill Russell, and then he throws this out there, and I said, well, I'm going to bring this up with my buddy Dan on the show the next time because it's a Cleveland name, but off of basketball, going to the football field, he goes, I'll throw Jim Brown out there, and he will fight with me tooth and nail that if you threw Jim Brown in today's NFL, he's just another guy. He's Brandon Jacobs. He's just another running back. And I say, bull. I don't care what you say. You're not going to turn me on Jim Brown. Jim Brown will drop on the field right now today in his prime, and he'll be Barry Sanders running people over up and down the field. But what do you think? Because size-wise, he makes a point as far as, like Bill Russell, who was so much bigger and more dominant than the other players of his era, that's the argument people use against him and his success. Same thing I guess people use against Jim Brown is he was so much bigger and stronger and more athletic and just more dominant than everybody he played against. Drop him in the field today, does he have the same success? I say yes.
Well, I obviously say yes too. It seems crazy to use as your argument the fact that Jim Brown was 6'2" and 230 and therefore he couldn't play today.
Right, he's a linebacker size, man.
The fact that he was 6'2" and 230 and super fast and super strong is the reason that he could play today and be competitive and be just as good today as he was then. That's hardly an argument against him that he's 6'2", 230 in terms of playing in today's game. So that doesn't hold any water. And I guess all you have to do is ask anybody over 50, what they think about that. Have you ever watched any film of Jim Brown? Do you think that that talent could play in today's NFL? It's the question answers itself.
I think so too. Absolutely. I get his argument about the size, but I don't care, man. Matter of fact, I'm sending out a text as you're talking. I'm going, I hope you're listening to this right now because I brought this up just for you because I said, that's blasphemous. What did you just say? Jim Brown, Brandon Jacobs? What did you just say? Anyway.
Yeah, I hope he didn't really use those two names in the same sentence.
He did,
anyway,
because they're the same size, and I get that argument, but I was like, come on now, that's where the similarities end, man.
Exactly, yeah, like I said, he's so big, he couldn't play in today's game. No. I understand the point that he was playing against some smaller people.
Right.
But that's not to say that he was playing against, less talented football players back in the day.
Absolutely. Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland. We're doing some talking here. All right, so second half basketball will kick off here this weekend. You and I can start talking about that. As a matter of fact, the trade deadline will pass. What would you think? I mean, I don't even think it's a 30% chance that the Cavs make a move by the next time we talk, but I'm just curious. Does your gut tell you they're going to do something or not?
Boy, no way of knowing. I guess, Griffin is active, and so you have to, reserve the possibility that he'll make some kind of a move, but I suspect it'll be a minor move. I suspect it'll be a move for an 8th or 9th guy or something. I don't think it'll be something blockbuster.
No, I think they know that there's going to be a couple of guys cut loose here in the next couple of weeks that'll be bought out and allowed to go out there and sign veteran minimums, and I think that may be a more likely place where the cap. And I'm thinking of this also from salary cap ramifications too. I mean, whatever they add doesn't just add to this season's payroll. It adds to next year's when everybody's big raises start kicking in, and it adds to the year after that too. So I don't think so, but we'll see, man. By the time we talk, the Cavs team will be set as far as any big moves that they make heading forward. All right, Indians are doing their thing in spring training. I know you heard Bruce called in and was talking about that a little bit earlier. What are you feeling now? I mean, I think, what is it, Wednesday we were saying everybody starts reporting and getting things underway. This is the boring part of spring training, by the way. This is the first 10 days where it's underway, but it's not.
And then, like you say, the only downside of that positive, stretched out NBA All-Star break is that, hey, man, for us fans, it's killer because it's already the most boring sportsless time of year for us. And it just stretches out a few more nights when we have to go home and say, gosh, there's no game for me to watch on TV tonight. But I did a little bit of checking, by the way, after Bruce's call, just to bring up, Juan Uribe's baseball reference page and then the page of the other name that's been thrown around as a potential free agent third baseman. That would be David Freese. And it is kind of unique this year that so many name players, not big stars, I mean the Uptons and those guys have signed, but there are a lot of players, especially infielders, that are going into the middle of February, going into the start of spring training unsigned. Juan Uribe, 36, about to be 37 years old. Last year was with 3 different teams. He hit 14 homers, 43 RBIs. He's going back. He had 20 homers back in 24 homers back in 2010 with the Giants. But then he had 4 years with the Dodgers. Guy's got a lifetime batting average of 256, only a 303 on base, 421 slugging career average. But a good glove and a good, clubhouse guy, they say. I'm thinking that is the most logical direction, I think, for the Indians to go. David Freese, quite a bit younger. He's only 32, and he's got better career numbers. Lifetime 276 hitter, 344 on base percentage. Last year, 14 and 56 in 120 games with the Angels. He's been more durable, it seems. Since 2012, he's played 144, 138, 134 games. Don't know. Now, obviously, he's a guy that was probably looking for, 3 years and $40 million or something, and it doesn't look like he's going to get that unless somebody steps up here pretty quick. So maybe you could get him for a little bit less. But I got to believe that the Indians are really only thinking about maybe a 1 year. Right. 1 year, stopgap here until maybe Yandy Diaz is ready to go. Yandy Diaz, has some power, been playing. He's going to start out in Columbus this year, and he looks like he's got the same kind of glove that Urshela's got, and quite a bit better bat at least in terms of power numbers and average numbers too. He's hit over 300 in the minors a couple times, and that's something that Urshela has never done. And he's got more power. So I think they might be looking at Yandy Diaz as the guy that's going to be their third baseman down the road, and maybe as soon as next year. So I don't know that they want to give anybody a 2 or 3 year deal, and maybe that's why Uribe makes a little bit more sense of bringing the wily veteran, and maybe even that way you let Urshela start out in Columbus and get his sea legs and show if he can be a productive hitter and give him another shot. We had flashes of Gio being a decent hitter last year, but he really kind of tailed off at the end. And to me, Jerry, it always looked like Gio just needed to learn the strike zone a little bit better. He just seemingly could not lay off that outside fastball. He couldn't lay off the slider down and away, and struck out on an awful lot of bad balls last year. Now, any young hitter will do that. Whether this year will be different, who knows? But I think he deserves another shot. And maybe if the Indians feel that some of their guys like Napoli and Roger Davis can give him some more right-handed pop, that maybe they can afford to live with a guy who doesn't hit for a whole lot of average or power as long as he's got the great glove at third base. So just wonder what they're thinking, but sure would be nice to have a Uribe or maybe even a David Freese as a third base insurance policy.
For sure. And, Terry Pluto, his Talking Tribe over the weekend, he had mentioned those two guys over there at third, and he had a good point as far as if you're looking at because I'm with you. I think the Indians aren't looking to sign anybody multi-year. I think they're looking for somebody that they can say, hey, 1 year, build your value up, and then, maybe it's with us, maybe it's with somebody else. We'll see what happens next year. And with more teams being interested in Juan Uribe, that would maybe handcuff the Indians' effort to get a team-friendly deal. They may have to open up that second year or whatnot to or give a player option or something like that. And so maybe Freese ends up being a bit more amenable to a 1-year contract with the Tribe. So maybe that opens that up a little bit. I don't know. I'm with you. What was it? 260, 14 home runs, like 56 RBIs or something like that.
And that wasn't in that many games. Let me see.
Yeah, what did he play last year?
He played 119 games.
Okay,
so that's
112, I think.
Three quarters of the season. And the other thing that people are talking about is platooning Jose Ramirez over there, giving him some games at third base, maybe against right-handed pitching. So who knows how that's going to work out. He's got a good glove. We haven't really seen him very much at third. But that's been talked about, and that doesn't help your power numbers much, and it doesn't. But it does give you a left-right platoon over there if you chose to give him some games and give Urshela or possibly a Uribe, a day off here and there with J-Ram over there.
I'll tell you what, we're talking about a lot of things that are yet to play themselves out in the position battles. How about pitching-wise? What's the Tribe got? 30 pitchers that came in and reported. I think they've got 14 or 15 starters. I think they've got 14 or 15 bullpen options coming in here. That's Terry Francona ball, baby. That's give me as many arms as I can possibly have because I'm going to go through all of them before I'm done.
Yeah, that's true. And then, of course, we just now added Tommy Hunter to.
Yes.
So he's got a major league deal. So you got to believe that's 5 right.
He's out, right? He's going to miss the first part of the season.
So they say. Yeah, I guess it was a hernia surgery. I guess.
Yeah.
They said core muscle surgery. That I heard later on that it was a sports hernia. Don't know how long he'll be out, but he's got a major league contract, so he'll be there along with Cody Allen, Shaw, McAllister, Manship, presumably, in your right-handed bullpen. And that's not counting Armstrong, Austin Adams, Joba Chamberlain, Dan Otero, guys that they've brought in already that are right-handers. We talked last week. It's really more the lefties make the team. Yeah,
that name still makes me laugh. Could you imagine if he ended up on this squad, man? After all the years later with the Mayflies.
Joba, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That signing was totally under the radar for me. I don't know how I missed out on that one, but. Anyway, they after the midges and everything.
Yes, right.
A lot of history in Cleveland for him, and not the fan favorite, you might say.
No.
But anyway, there's a lot of guys, put it that way, and we've got quite a selection of lefties to choose from too, with Kyle Crockett and Giovanni Soto, and then the guys they've signed like Thatcher and Gorzolani and some guys. So yeah, it'll be fun. But like you say, this is the way Francona likes to do it, and get 6 innings out of your starter, and then start playing Russian roulette with your bullpen.
And you know what? You mentioned Hunter, and that's another one of those names that I think a lot of them, and I get these all the time. You know, our Facebook page automatically posts all these articles that come from the Indians website and stuff like that. So whenever it'll be like Indians sign so-and-so, and I'll always get the sarcastic comments, who? Oh, another guy I never heard of. Because the casual fan hasn't heard of 70% of the guys on any team's roster, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's right. And Tommy Hunter, the first-round draft pick back in the day.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. What were you saying, Dan, about Hunter?
I'm sorry. Just that he was a first-round pick, and maybe even a casual fan might be acquainted with his name, where they might not know a Tom Gorzolani.
Absolutely, and that's what I get hit with. But with Hunter, like you said, that's a legitimate signing, and again, Indians think it'll be a month or two maybe into the season before he's playing, but he got a big league deal, over $2 million. And he was good in the last couple of years. I think he had a 3.25 ERA, but last year it was almost 6. And apparently, the way he explains it, it was the hernia that he had to have the surgery for. And there is a definite huge increase in his ERA, almost 2 full points from the point in the season where he got the hernia injury to the end of the season. So, you know, hopefully that's exactly what that is, because otherwise, like I said, the guy was 13-9 and a 3.26 ERA when he was playing the last 3 years.
Yeah, and it's absolutely a rather typical Cleveland signing to bring a guy coming off of an injury, and
yep.
You know, sort of a typical Cleveland reclamation project to bring in a guy like that you can get a good deal on, and hope catch lightning in a bottle, and that's how we do it here.
Absolutely. And here we go. Speaking of how they do it, Wednesday, the 17th, like we said, pitchers and catchers will officially report. And then, a week later, you'll get the position players in there. And here we are, off and rolling. And I think, like you said, I think it's likely that maybe we see another name added to who the Indians get before that point in time. Dan, before I let you go, I know we've been chit-chatting for a while here. Last week, we teased it a little bit, but with National Signing Day going by, let's switch over to the college football field for a minute. Buckeyes wrapped up their recruiting class for the offseason. Everybody did, and talk to me a bit about how it all shook out for Urban Meyer's Buckeyes.
Well, one of the things, and let me just briefly plug my new column at Everybody Hates Cleveland. I had a new piece go up today, and I talk a little bit about that. But the thing that goes on this year is that Urban's secret weapon is that he's got 2 recruiting classes to unveil this year. Because really last year's freshmen didn't see the field. I think only 4 guys out of 26 even got on the field at all of last year's freshman class. And of those 4, none of them played any kind of a significant role other than maybe a brief special teams appearance or playing in a little bit of mop-up time. So really he's got 46 out of his 85 scholarship players are going to come into this coming season with 4 years of eligibility remaining. It was kind of remarkable. He commented in his press conference a couple weeks ago that he was going to play them all, that he didn't mean for that to happen, and it's obviously something that other teams can use against him if they say, hey, if you're a kid that's debating signing with Ohio State or someone else, can point to last year and say, hey, you can go to Columbus if you want to sit on the bench all year like all the rest of the freshmen do. So Meyer really has to speak to the issue and also show that he means it when playing time comes. So, but he's got talent. He's loaded. This class this year, the 2016 class, the kids that are coming in this fall, rated, I think, in the 3 main recruiting services, number 2, number 3, and number 4 in those 3 services in the nation. Alabama put out a big push at the end and nosed them out for number 1, but Buckeyes were sitting with the number 1 class in the country for the better part of the last several months of the recruiting season. So they're very heavy coming in. They've got a couple of big-time receivers with good size. Kid named Benjamin Victor out of Florida, Austin Mack from Indiana. Another couple of good running backs, Antonio Williams, and then the kid from Cleveland here, North Ridgeville, Demario McCall, who rated the number 5 running back in the country. Unclear a little bit whether he's going to be an H-back or whether he's going to be a tailback. But a great class of defensive ends, including Nick Bosa, Joey's little brother, rated the number 2 defensive end in the entire country, and a kid named Jonathan Cooper, who was a 5-star out of Columbus in Gahana. Speed rusher, pass rushing specialist. So there's just talent up and down the line. If anybody wants to go look at that class, I mean, BuckeyeSports.com, the good place as any. My friends at Scout, you can go to the football tab and look at the commitment list, and for any year that you want to, going back several years. But they've got good profiles on all these kids. But the big thing to me is that, you know, we're really going to be looking at 2 full classes worth of recruits that we'll be seeing for the first time.
Yeah.
And there are a number of equally strong classes from 2015. We're going to see a kid named Mike Weber this year, a running back from Michigan that looks to be taking over for Zeke Elliott. There's a kid named Torrance Gibson that we've been talking about for 2 years, a quarterback in high school, and became a receiver for Columbus. The insiders that I listen to say that this kid at 6'4", 205 is just off the charts in terms of athletic ability. He's sort of just broken every record they've got there in terms of measurables, in terms of athletic ability, leaping ability, and those kinds of things. So look for Torrance Gibson to be making a splash this fall as another big, long wide receiver with great speed. They're going to be so green, and that's really the theme of my article, is that they're loaded but green. They're going to be uber talented, but they are so inexperienced that it's bound to show sooner or later. And they've got a much tougher schedule than last year. They head down to Oklahoma in week 3, so it's going to be tough. But my other big part of that column today is a little bit on the Jim Harbaugh situation, how he's become quite the media darling. And I take a few shots at Mr. Harbaugh from our rival to the north, and so you get a chance to look at that over at everybodyhatescleveland.com that just went up this morning.
Make sure you guys check that out, everybodyhatescleveland.com, Dan's latest piece, and you hit right on where I was going to segue right from where you were at. They got tons of talent, and it's all inexperienced. 16 starters being replaced, and you've got a lot of inexperience, a lot of very talented inexperience, but the schedule hits them at the same time. I mean, this schedule here, I was just looking at this, and I said, man, this is what we got to get into. But you mentioned Oklahoma. That's a big one. You were playing Virginia Tech 7-6 last year. Now you've got 11-2 Oklahoma. That's a huge early season challenge there. I mean, really, a couple of years ago, these were the things that the Buckeyes put into place, but when you're talking about them in 2012, 2013, and they're saying, well, 2016, 2017, home and away series here and there, you know, those things have to be scheduled 6-8 years in advance because of the way these things work. But now, finally, you're starting to get to that point, and this is that season. They've got a better MAC game this year with Bowling Green being a higher level of competition. Tulsa's better than Hawaii as far as a non-conference game. And the Big Ten games that they're playing are definitely a couple of better ones in there. What do they got? Wisconsin and Northwestern coming in there, a couple of 10-win teams. So a huge upgrade in the schedule, as you mentioned, to go along with that. So it'll definitely be a test under fire for a lot of these young guys.
Yeah, no kidding. That it'll make spring ball all the more interesting this year, and we're only about a month away from that thing kicking off.
Can you believe that? Here we go, spring game
around the 1st of March. We roll into that. I'm not sure if it's 1st of March this year, because I think spring game is pushed back a little bit. Spring game is April 16th this year, so it might be still more like 6 or 7 weeks before we get into spring ball. But yeah, it'll make it all the more interesting because there's so many positions to be decided on, and so much talent going on. But yeah, the schedule is tougher. We've had probably the two best programs in the Western Division of the conference, traditionally, Wisconsin and Nebraska. They've been off the schedule for Ohio State for the last 2 and 3 years, respectively. And they're both back on the schedule this year, as well as Northwestern. So you really do have the 3 toughest teams out of the West that you really haven't had to face for a couple of years, rotating back on. Plus, you've got to go to East Lansing this year, and that's always going to be a tough game. And you go to Happy Valley, which is never easy. And you have to go to Madison to play the Badgers. So even with the better non-conference schedule, your Big Ten schedule is a lot tougher as well.
For sure, it's going to be a lot of like you said, that spring practice will really pick it up because they've got to gel quickly because they're going to have to hit the ground running on this one. And next year, it's definitely going to be a fun year. And moving forward, they definitely will not be able to lay the soft schedule rap against the Buckeyes, and that's something I'm very glad to see because there was a point in time where that was definitely hurting the Buckeyes and it may have hurt them last year. I read an article in the Plain Dealer over the weekend basically saying, hey, had they played this year's schedule last year, might have got them into the playoff even the way things played out. So that matters.
Yeah,
especially...
I saw Doug Langmurray's column there.
Yes,
it's a good one, where he basically said this may be the schedule that they should have had last year to impress the voters, and maybe playing in Oklahoma earlier in the season would have had them better prepared to play Michigan State, and we could have won that, and all kinds of what-if possibilities there. But, yeah, he did a nice job of comparing the schedules and the trade-offs that we've got this year. And really, you can see it play out over the next several seasons. I mean, the Buckeyes, they had – last year they didn't have a big-time team unless you can consider Virginia Tech a big-time team. But like you said, those things are scheduled 7-8 years ago when you don't know what a team's going to have. But the Buckeyes have still played home series over the last decade with Texas, with USC, with Miami, Virginia Tech, and Cal, and others. And over the next 10 years, even over the next 6 or 7 years, they've got home series with Oklahoma, TCU, Oregon. And so they're continuing to do it. And then after that, we get into Notre Dame when we get into the next decade. So they're not dodging anybody, and they're always going to have at least one elite non-conference matchup, because in this day and age, that's what you have to have. Speaking of having to have that and comparing it with I took a look at Michigan's schedule the other day, and I saw Michigan ranked in a lot of people's way too early top 10 lists as being a top 10 team next year. And I thought, how can this be? Because they just didn't. I mean, they were improved this year, but the Buckeyes still beat them by 4 touchdowns. Then I looked at their non-conference schedule. They've got Hawaii. No slam on Hawaii. The Buckeyes played them this year, but they've got Hawaii. They've got UCF, which was 0-12 in 2015, and they've got Colorado, one of the weakest teams in all the Power 5 conferences. Those are their 3 non-conference games, all at home. Then they play their first two Big Ten games, and probably their toughest Big Ten games outside of OSU and Michigan, Wisconsin and Penn State, I believe, back-to-back at home. So they've got their first 5 games at home, and 3 of them are kind of walkover games. So I can see now how they're projecting to, be in the thick of it, ranking-wise at least, well into maybe November, because they really won't have played anybody and had much of a challenge. They do stack up Michigan State, Michigan State and Ohio State down the stretch. So, but they're going to be cakewalking it this year as opposed to what the Buckeyes are up against.
Right, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, while we're talking college, we don't have time this week. Let's do it next week. We talked a lot of hoops today, but we talked about pro hoops. Let's talk about the Buckeyes, and we're heading into March Madness time. You mentioned it last week. We've already just about hit it. I'll tell you, I've been peripherally watching a lot of stuff, and the ACC, I noticed this came up on my stats and info earlier this morning. Half of the ACC is going to end up in the NCAA tournament. That conference is so strong this year. I think 8 out of 16 teams looking to make it. But we haven't talked a lot of college hoops this year. March Madness, you come out of this little lull that we've got, but we hit my favorite time of the year here coming up. March Madness is just truly like I love it. You just sit down and you got 4 screens going, you got games going everywhere. That first weekend is a blast.
It is. It's always one of my favorite times of year too, as you know. I mean, not only the basketball, but it obviously coincides with some NBA playoffs getting going and some baseball getting going and other side events like the Derby and the Masters and all those kinds of things. All coming together in the springtime, and it's anticipating that makes getting through these next 2 weeks at the end of February we're suffering through.
Sure does. Cavs will get back at it this weekend, so you and I will catch up next week. We'll talk some hoops. We'll talk some Ohio State Buckeyes hoops. Let's catch up on that, and we'll see where things are going with the Indians. Pitchers and catchers will be in camp. Maybe somebody else will join them, and I'm sure there'll be no shortage of things to get into. And once again, your latest on the Buckeyes. If you guys are into Buckeye recruiting and all that, check it out. EverybodyHatesCleveland.com. Dan's latest column there. Dan, my man, you have a good one, my friend, as always, and I look forward to catching up with you next week.
Okay, Jerry, we'll do it. It's always fun.
You got it. Always fun. You got that right. That's Dan Wismar. And by the way, you guys can tweet with him anytime. Talk to him directly on Twitter at DWismar. The letter D, WISMAR. You can tweet with me at the Sports Fix, CLE, all one word, or at J-Rocc Daddy, JROCCDADDY. Instagram, exactly the same, J-Rocc Daddy. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Stay in touch with us. Let us know what you thought of today's episode, and I want to hear back from you guys as we continue. I love that. I say it all the time. One of my favorite things throughout the course of not being on the air is hearing from you guys in real time as you're listening live, and wherever you're at, Kazakhstan, across the world, it doesn't matter. 3 o'clock in the morning, I'll get a message that goes, yeah, I agree with you, and then I'm like, hey, they're listening live right now. It's awesome. Keep that up, you guys. Stay in touch with me. Find us, follow us, friend us, do the thing. Be a part of the Sports Fix universe, and be back here next Monday live when we return. Same bad time, same bad channel here across the Sports Fix Radio Network. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. And if you love what we do me a favor, as you always do, and share the show. Click the link wherever you're listening. There's a share button. Share it on your social media. Let somebody else know, hey, the Sports Fix got it going on, Daddy, and tell them to take a listen to what we're doing, because you guys are the ones that really help keep this thing growing. We're going to call it. You guys can't wait to be back in here Monday live, noon, here on the Sports Fix. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. Have a great week. Enjoy the Cavs as they get back into action, and be back here with us Monday live on the Sports Fix.
In my teams, we keep getting closer every year. But we got the king, though, so hopefully we overcome. Yes, I have a dream, and I know I ain't the only one. Modell tried to steal my heart, but we brought it back. Thanks to Cleveland Clinic, now they call them kids to cardiac. Rock cars, Science Center, Tower City, all of that. Warehouse District, Euclid Corridor, and all the flat. You know that I'm a Tribes fan, and I love Slimans. Crockett Park's the perfect place for me to spend some time in. Baby, this is Cleveland. It is so much more to us. You can even go to Severance Hall to see an orchestra. Hey.
We rep our city. Blue lights separate the ground from the gritty. We're sick fitted.